On our lesson plan today, we will continue to explore and develop ideas, experimenting with different materials and equipment. And your objective is to demonstrate your ability to use these different resources in a creative way. Please take time to read over your lesson plan so that you can see what your objectives clearly are. Hello everybody and welcome back, and thank you for being at my lesson. So this is lesson 3 of our new project for Key Stage 3 students called Sweets, Glorious Sweets. So far in the design cycle, you have looked at elements of research and initial ideas. So let's just talk about the design cycle for a minute, and I will pop up an image which shows you all of the design cycle. So as you can see here, it's very important that you start by analysing the project. If you're working forward to Key Stage 4 and you're going to look at GCSE, you will have briefs, you will have assignments which have detailed aspects of maybe having a client. So for now, for Key Stage 3, we have projects, we have research, ideas, developing ideas, and then initial developing final ideas where you will look at going forward with your own personal interpretation of the brief. So skip it all the way back to the beginning. You will continue to go back to the research and build on the research. It's very important that you keep on looking at other artists' work and influences around the world to come into your project to give you new ideas. So far we've done our Sweets, Glorious Sweets research page in lesson 1 with some annotation and looking at you doing your own drawings and the skill of transferring the drawing using a transfer technique. And then we moved on to using a grid and being able to use the grid to copy over an image. So they're the 2 pages. Now if you need any more images, just pop a message below in the comments and I can comment and maybe email across some more images to you if you need any. So the next stage is to transfer an image again. So I've got a couple that I've already transferred. I don't know if you can see it because it's quite faint in pencil from the ideas that we've had. I've continued to use the same grid and the same image because it's not about the image, it's about the resources that we're using. And today we're going to use oil pastels, quite messy oil pastels. Bearing in mind, oil pastels are oil based, so they cannot be used with water. But you were using last week watercolour. We're not going to use turpentine or terps to paint with this, we're just going to use a blending of oil pastels. So once you've got all your resources together, oil pastels, image drawn and grid, we can start. So let's go, I'll show you all the way through. am demonstrating the use of using a combination of colours to give the sweets an element of depth and tone. So I've started with the darker colour and then going over the top with the lighter colour and using the white at the end to lighten up areas to give it some tone. You can do this as well with the darker shades. So there I have a black with a grey with a white, and then going over again with the darker shades to give it more tone. Take time at the end of your drawing to see where you need to add further definition. As you can see here, I'm using the white oil pastel to give a little bit more definition of the shapes of each individual sweet. I'm also using the black to bring the foreground forward. It's very important that the background is all shaded in, and blend the colours together by using a combination of different colours of the same tone. find that? It's not that hard, is it? It does take a lot of layering. So as you can see from my demonstration, and here is the final piece. I will turn it around for you to see. As with watercolours, the more layers you have, the more depth and three-dimensional the image looks. I suggest in your sketchbook, before we move on, you put down a piece of tracing paper so that the image does not merge into any of your other pages, because it being oil pastel, it can have a tendency to rub. Okay, so just put that on. Alright, so let me just talk a little bit about the assessment of your work, because I haven't mentioned that today. So I'm going to put up some descriptives, and as you can see from the descriptives that we work with, there are quite a few elements that we look at. We look at your skills and your techniques and how you use different resources. We look at how you present your work. Your presentation skills are very important. Even on this piece of work, I've used a different technique all the way around the outside to present it in a creative way. I've annotated around the outside, and as you can see from the assessment criteria, annotation and visual language is extremely important. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are considering moving forward and having the GCSE on your pathway, you will need to look at all the different assessment criteria. Assessment of your annotation is equally important as your practical work. Okay, so now we can move on and continue to explore different materials and techniques. As I've said, this is one of the very important starts of the design cycle, and it's a very important aspect of your assessment criteria. Again, we're going to follow step 1 of each process, which is to have your grid ready. Once your grid is ready, I'm happy for that to be reduced down to half the size, because we're experimenting with materials and equipment. And again, if you're going to do this as a GCSE, we would want to see at least 3 or 4 different types of materials and equipment that you explore at the beginning of your project. And then those materials and equipment can be advanced on or combined. And we still have a few in this project to work with. So in the next lesson, lesson 4, we're going to use soft pastels. So we've used oil pastels today. Next week we're going to use soft pastels. Now for soft pastels, we're going to have some blending tools as well. Again, you could use cotton wool buds if you haven't got these blending tools, but what we do not use is our finger. And you could have pastel paper if you can get your hands on, but don't worry, because your sketchbooks are perfectly acceptable. So until next week, thank you for coming to my lesson, and I look forward to seeing all your results. Please add a comment if you need any help. Bye now.